everybody in our country wants some kind of accountability. There's different views on whether, the left wants gun control, the right wants to harden schools and to promote the family unit and, to look to see what happened. Was there negligence? Was there problem? What was the problem with this response? But everybody does want to know, well, is this what police are going to be doing now? Is this how they're going to be responding, or is there some malfeasance that occurred that they can be held accountable for under the law?
Well, based on what we know now, the public statement of Texas DPS is that this was clearly a mistake, that they made the wrong decision, and that it cost lives. So I don't think you're going to see other law enforcement trying to emulate this. I don't think you're going to see other law enforcement saying this was a good response. Clearly, the best response would have been to be present and stop him from getting in the first place. The second best response would have been to forcibly breach and take him out before he could have murdered these children and those teachers. In terms of lawsuits, I'm sure there are going to be lawsuits. I'm sure there are going to be lawsuits against everybody, against the school, against the city, against the police. Those lawsuits are likely going to face a real impediment of this longstanding doctrine that legal liability doesn't attach. There was a Supreme Court case, U.S. Supreme Court case in 2005 it's called the City of Castle Rock versus Gonzalez. And in that case, it's really horrific fact pattern. In that case, there was a woman who had a protective order against her husband, or ex-husband, rather. And the ex-husband kept violating that protective order, and she was complaining about it, and the ex-husband came to her house and took her 3 kids. And she called the police and said, look, I've got a protective order. This protective order says law enforcement will arrest him. Please go enforce the protective order. And essentially the police blew her off, and they blew her off over and over and over again. And she's calling at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. She's calling at 6. She's calling at 7. She's calling at 10. She's calling at midnight. She's calling she goes down to the police station, and the police are just blowing her off. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to do anything. And then, if I remember correctly, about 3 in the morning, the ex-husband shows up at the police station with a gun and begins opening fire on the cops. They kill the ex-husband, and the bodies of the 3 children are found in his truck outside, that he had murdered his 3 kids. Ugh. And so it's a horrific fact pattern. The case went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court decided by a vote of 7-2 that the wife did not have a cause of action against the police to get damages. And the technical legal question they were answering was whether there was a property interest she had in the enforcement of the protective order. And the reason they were asking whether there's a property interest is look, the Constitution generally sets up the structure of government. And it protects certain rights. And in particular, you have the 5th and 14th Amendments that protect us from the deprivation of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And so what she was arguing is she had a property interest in enforcing that protective order, and that she was deprived of that without due process of law. The court, by a vote of 7-2, rejected that claim and said, you can't sue the police. It's terrible. They should have acted. But you can't sue the police. There's another case out of the District of Columbia. It's another horrible case where 2 criminals broke into a home. There were 3 women living in the home. They began sexually assaulting one of the women downstairs. The 2 others call the police, say, please come. The police dispatchers send the cops. They knock on the door. Nobody answers, and they leave. The women again call the police. They say they'll come. They never come. They just blow it off. The women upstairs call out thinking the police are in the house. The intruders find them, kidnap all 3 of them, and it horribly sexually assault and abuse them for an extended period of time. This was a liability suit against the dispatchers because they had called and told them, and the cops failed to come, and the court ended up concluding you couldn't sue, that there wasn't a specific duty to protect. That is understandably frustrating to most people when they hear it, and then most people haven't heard that. But it is something both state and federal courts have pretty consistently held.